Hey, what's up guys? It's Ben, and wow, I've got an awesome video planned for you. This is 10 steps on how to have an awesome field day. I've gotten so many requests over the years of how to do a field day tips and just how you go about planning the big day. And I'm excited to say I finally put together a resource for you. I'm linking a blog post down below. Make sure to check it out. It's got tons of videos, tips, pictures, ideas, a whole run through of the whole day. But in this video, I just wanted to give you an overview of the 10 main things I do when I'm planning my day. So without further ado, let's get started. Step number one is you got to pick a date. Now for me, depending on where you're located, if you're located in Canada, it's probably really cold until the end of the year, whereas if you're located in like South America, it's probably hot all year. So for me in South Carolina, when I got my job at my school, they were doing field day on the last week of school, which was in June, and it would sometimes get to 100 degrees outside, and so it was so miserably hot. All the parent volunteers, all the students were about to pass out by the end of field day. So one of the first things I did was move the date up to right before our spring break. So now we do our field day at the end of March. The weather is amazing. It's always in the 70s or 80s, and it's been such a great move. It's also kind of nice because we get it out of the way early. We come back, we don't have to worry about standardized testing, end of the year grades, all those things that kind of can take up your time when you're also trying to plan a big event. So number one, choose your date. I would try to focus on having good weather. For me, in my situation, that's at the end of March. So that's when we do our field day. Step number two, you want to choose the format of your field day. So for the format, there's three main formats that I've seen and that I've experienced and that I've seen other people use in their field day plans. Format number one would be like a track and field style field day, and this is what I did in my middle school when I was growing up. And the way it works is each homeroom teacher will select different students in their class or on their team to participate in different events. So they have different events throughout the school. They're all track and field style events like the 100-yard dash or the 4-man relay or the long jump or things like that. And usually the school would kind of congregate in one place. You would call the students down, the boys would compete, the girls would compete. You would have a first, second, third place winner for each one. You'd probably split it up by grade levels if you're doing it for elementary school. That's kind of like the track and field event style field day where you're giving out, certificates or ribbons for the, top 3 people in each event and having a team competition between classes, or maybe you divide the school up into 4 teams and they compete against each other. So that's track and field day. I've never planned that myself. I just participated in it as a student when I was growing up. But I have seen lots of other people doing their field days in that fashion. The second kind of field day is a festival type field day, which is like basically just a big party. So maybe you rope off an area in your school, like the big playground, or you have like the gym if you have a huge gym, and you just set up bounce houses and you have concessions like snow cones and hot dogs, and like everybody kind of pitches in, and you might have vendors or sponsors that come in and set up a game like a dunking booth, or maybe you have a cakewalk, or also maybe you have some track and field style events and some other games and relay style things built into there as well. But mainly it's just like a big party on the playground. And so that's kind of the festival. Maybe you want to have some other rides or obstacle courses, things like that you bring in from outside, depending on if you can get sponsorships from businesses or parents to help out and things like that. I've never done that, although we have had events kind of like that at my school. I've never planned something like that for field day. And then the third format, which I use, is a station or activity-based field day where you have all these stations set up throughout the school. Every class starts at one station, and you rotate around, and they get to move throughout the school, kind of like taking a tour of the entire school and playing different games throughout the day. So that's what I do. We do that in a format. I have 650 kids in my school, and I break it up into 2 blocks. So in the morning time I have K through 2nd, and we have 15 or 16 home rooms usually in that group. So I plan to have 18 stations, and they kind of rotate through different games, and we blow an air horn outside or do a whistle inside to tell everybody to rotate. They have about 6 minutes for each one. So that's the kind of format that I do, and the reason I do that is mainly because the consensus when I've kind of polled my teachers and my administration is they just want to have a fun day. They don't want to worry too much about competition. They just want to have fun, go outside, play some games, move around the school, and so it has always worked out really well for us, and so we've kept it like that. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong field day to do. It just depends on your situation. So talk to your teachers, talk to your administration, try to figure out what's best for your students and pick your format. Now, from now on, I'm just going to explain to you how I do my field day, the steps for creating like a station activities based field day. All right, so number 3 is you want to plan your activities. So like I told you, I have 18 stations. So every year I switch out a few stations. We keep some the same to kind of keep it easy for the kids. They already know what to expect on a few things. And of course, there's some stations that are just too much fun. You gotta keep those same ones. But I always try to mix it up a little bit, change a few things, make it a little bit better. If you want to see some examples of station activities that I do, you can check the link below. I'll have them all laid out in a blog post for you. And then you can also check out the Field Day Resource Guide if you want to see like full-on station descriptions, pictures of setup, and things like that. So plan out your activities. What are you going to do? What are you going to be having the students rotate around to on field day? So that's step number 3. Step number 4 is you need some help. You want to recruit some volunteers. So if you have 18 games going on, you're going to want to have help on those games for your field day. So you want to have either parent volunteers, you can recruit some high school students, maybe you have some sports teams that you can bring in to volunteer, maybe you have some local churches or organizations, community that you can reach out to and get some volunteers from, or even maybe some older students in your school can help run those stations and volunteer for you. For me, we're really lucky. I've been at my school for a long time. I have pretty good relationships with a lot of the parents, so I have a pretty good turnout for my parent volunteers. So that's my main source of people that I get to run the stations for me. Also, we have some non-home room teachers like my related area team that helps me out and helps run the stations as well. So depending on your situation, you want to figure out how you do that. I'm going to link at the blog post that again will be linked below. I send out a Google form, put a little ad in the newsletter. They all sign up, and then I assign everybody to a station, blast out the emails, they show up, I give them little station descriptions so they know what to do the morning of, and then it runs really smoothly. So figure out how you're going to get the help for field day. Number 5 is you want to prep your teachers. The more you can communicate with your teachers and give them plans and tell them what to expect, the better field day is going to run for you. So be organized, make a little teacher packet. I have things like field day map, general directions, a little timeout sheet if students need to have a refocus time. And I have a little starting positions sheet that shows them where they're going to start their field day, and then the map has little arrows to show them how to get around the school to each station. So every time the air horn blows, it will rotate. I even make a little walkthrough video for my teachers to kind of give them an overview of what to expect, which you can also check out at the link below. Next, you want to prep your students. So that's what I call field day training. I'm going to also include, again, at the link below, there will be a little video of some examples, but basically about 1 or 2 weeks out, I start training my students on field day games. With kindergarten through 2nd, I take about 2 weeks to do that because for them, a lot of times field day is brand new if they're a new student. And then 3rd through 5th, most of them have been to field day at River Springs before at my school, and so I take only 1 week with them. We kind of just go through everything in one lesson. So field day training, prep your kids, help them know what to expect, make sure they know how to play the games, especially if you're using the format that I use, which is only about 6 minutes for each station. Next thing is you want to have a backup plan in case of bad weather, a rainy day plan. This is something that nobody wants to think about. You don't want to have to do the rainy day. And you know, in your specific situation, maybe your administration's like, hey, if it rains, field day's canceled. And you're like, hey, that's cool. For my situation, we were going to have a field day, so I was going to have to reschedule it. So canceling field day was not an option, especially since I do it earlier in the year. So for me, I've taken time out of my instruction, and I've coordinated multiple parent volunteers who have some of them taken off work and rearranged their schedules to be available on this one day, and I'm not going to reschedule it. So I always have a backup plan in case it rains. Luckily, I've only had to use that plan one time when our field day got rained out and we had to have an indoor field day. Check the links below. I'll show you a video kind of how I run the rainy day plan and how you can have an indoor field day if that's something that you want to try to do. It actually went really well. Got a lot of good feedback on it. And yes, everybody would rather be outside, but we had a good day and kids got to go around and play games all day. So it was a lot of fun. So have a backup plan. What are you going to do if it rains and you have bad weather? Next up is prep for field day. So this is like after you've done the field day training, you got your parent volunteers. This is the day before. The day before field day, I'm getting everything ready. I'm icing down our icy pots for our rest and refresh station. I've got the water bottles ready to go. I've got all my stations lined up. I'm going through the equipment checklist, making sure they're ready to go. And I've got all my parent volunteers assigned to a station, and my air horns are ready, my walkie-talkies are ready. I'm just going through the checklist. I'm prepping everything. I stay late at school, make sure everything's ready to go, because I'll get there early that morning, set everything up, get everything good to go. So then you got number 9. That's the morning of field day. You're going to get set up, get to school early, you set up all the stations, enlist some help from students or other teachers. We usually load everything up in a truck, go out and put stuff on our playground, set stuff up in the gym. We go out to some areas outside the gym, and kind of they go around the whole school. So we're just setting up stations for 1 or 2 hours before school, and then my parents start showing up about 30 minutes early. And so I give them a volunteer orientation. We kind of go over everything. I have little slips that I print for them with descriptions of each station so they know exactly what to do. Got maps for them. I give them the overview of how the day works, and we kind of go over, basics of running a relay style game. Like, hey, for kindergarten, move all the distances a little bit closer. For second grade, make them a little bit farther away. Or if you don't have enough time to finish a station, make it a little bit easier. Here's some ways that you can do different variations and modifications. Here are some things to think about. If one line has less kids, the first person in line goes twice. So we just kind of give them an overview, tell them where the bathrooms are, show them where all the stations are, and then give them a big thank you, of course, for coming out. Make sure you're being very grateful and trying to help them have a good experience, because if they have a good experience, they're likely to come back the following year to help you out again, which just ends up building and building and building. So make sure you give those parent volunteers as much thanks and gratitude as you can. Go around and hand out waters and things like that. Make sure they're taken care of. And then last but not least is number 10, just have an awesome field day. So once field day gets started, I and my co-teacher, and sometimes I have student teachers that help me, we'll be walking around. We have a walkie-talkie, and we're just helping run the stations. If we see that a parent volunteer is struggling, we'll kind of jump in and give an example of how we demonstrate the station for those students. If I see a homeroom teacher that needs help, I'll go and help them out. We're helping the office find kids that are getting pulled for early dismissal. If a kid gets hurt, we're kind of escorting them to the nurse station. And every 6 minutes, we're kind of radioing each other. And we'll set up on opposite sides of the school, and we'll blow an air horn for outside stations, and we'll go in and blow a whistle for inside stations. So we kind of just help run things. Then after the first block, like I told you, kindergarten through second goes in the morning, third through fifth goes in the afternoon. After that first block, when field day's over for our morning group, we reset all the stations, switch out a few ones that need to get switched out for our older kids, and then I got a quick lunch break, and then the volunteers for the afternoon shift come in, kind of help them get started, help them know where to go, and do the whole thing again from 12 to 2. And then we wrap it up at the very end. Everybody, students, parents, volunteers, they just bring all the equipment back to the gym, and we kind of get everything cleaned off, organized. And then at about 3:30, we're about ready to pass out because it's just been going all day. But that's the steps to having a successful field day. I hope that's helpful. Field day is a big responsibility, but it's also one of those things where you can just focus on helping create memories for kids. I love it when I hear kids tell me that was the best day ever. So here, I hope this blog post below, this video, will help for you helping to create one of those best day evers for your students. And have an awesome field day. As always, have fun and teach on. If you want to check out the field day resource pack, which I've put a lot of hours into planning and creating to help you save some time. If you want to create a field day similar to what I've talked about here and created, I'm going to link that below, and I think that can save you a lot of time, help you get a little head start, especially if you haven't ever planned a field day before. You just want some fresh ideas. So again, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, share this with somebody that you think might enjoy it or benefit from it, and have fun and teach on. Have an awesome day, guys.